this is James, and I'd like to welcome you to the Oracle Outlook for the week starting February the 8th, 2021. I also want to say that this is a viewer requested video, so let me explain. So it's been a minute since I've done a weekly video reading, and so this request came in light of the, or I should say as a result of the last video that I posted, and that was a continuation of my personal study and practice of cartomancy with playing cards series. And so I'm going to give a shout out to Natural Heaven, who commented on that video asking for me to do a weekly reading for the week ahead, this week that we're currently experiencing, because February the 6th, and I'm actually shooting the video on this day, but February the 6th is Natural Heaven's birthday. So I'm giving a birthday shout out to Natural Heaven. So if you are watching this after the fact, I am hoping that your birthday was a wonderful day, because she expressed that she's reached a milestone in her development. So I'm not going to give that away, but she knows what I'm referring to. So I'm hoping in light of that, your birthday was an awesome day. And happy birthday in the moment, because I'm filming this in the moment, but also happy belated birthday, because you will probably see this after the fact. Okay. So with that in mind, she gave me carte blanche, which means that she just offered that I do a video for the week ahead in light of her birthday, but she left deck choice up to me. So the deck choice for this video is going to be tarot. That's the system I'm using, but the deck in and of itself is one of my now favorite tarot decks, if it's not becoming the favorite tarot deck. I found it last year just on a lark. And once I got it into my possession, I found myself wanting to only use this deck. It didn't matter what type of reading I was doing, I only wanted to work with this particular tarot deck. And so the deck is, after much build-up, the deck is the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot. For those who are not familiar, it is a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck, so it's a variant of that. But if you find yourself not liking the artwork in the more traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the artwork by Pamela Coleman Smith, a lot of people do love it, but I do know that there's some people, for whatever the reason, it doesn't speak to them, it doesn't resonate with them, and they feel like they can't work with that deck. You might want to give this particular deck a look, because it really sticks to the visual imagery and symbology of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. It's just drawn in a more appealing way, to me anyways, just drawn in a more appealing way, and because of that, I find myself reaching for it more than I do my more traditional RWS decks. So if you're finding yourself in that place, and you really want to work with Rider-Waite-Smith, but you're feeling like the artwork doesn't jive with you, consider checking this one out. I love it. And so that is my shameless plug for the deck. So now that I've done that, let's get to the table and see what the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot wants to share with us about the week ahead. And here we are with the cards on the table, and I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the deck. And as I shuffle the cards, I'm focusing on my intention when I do general readings, and that is for the information, for the insight, for any guidance or advice, to come through the cards that is going to be most helpful and beneficial as we move through the upcoming week. Feeling one more time. Yeah, and when I experience that, that means the deck is done with the shuffling. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. Now I'm going to fan the cards out. And I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention, and clearly this one wants to be selected. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, And our fifth and final card is over here. So I have my 5 cards selected. I'm going to take the remainder of the deck up, and I'm going to move that to one side in case I need to refer to it. Alright, so now I'm going to take a moment to line the cards up in the order that they were selected. I'm going to do this for just a little bit of visual appeal. Okay, so we have the 5 cards lined up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the middle card. For me, the middle card is going to be the central issue, or what we're being asked to focus on for the week ahead. And here we have, okay, so here we have the 3 of Pentacles. So there's a few things I could say about this card. First and foremost, this is about gradual progress, gradual development. In the image, we have an architect or an artisan who's working on a project with the 2 figures here who are holding a blueprint or a plan. So there's a few things to say about this. So for some people, we are focusing on being the architect in our lives. And so this could be a week where we are contemplating what it is that we are planning for our lives going forward. You know, sometimes I look at the visual image of a blueprint and it's like we are drawing up or designing our lives. And then once we come up with the plan, quote unquote, it's about implementing the plan. So you could be at a stage where you are working on constructing your life the way that you envision it to be. And if that is the case, what does the plan look like? And what do you need to do to implement your plan? Meaning, what do you need to do to move it forward? So that is one general meaning that this card could imply. Now, it could also be with the literal aspect of construction and architecture. It could be a matter of somebody is actually going through the literal process of either constructing a home, adding on to a home, something of that nature. Sometimes for me, in that regard, this card is about making room and space for a child. So there may be people who are having an addition to the family and needing to figure out, planning on that addition coming into the world, right? So it's about making space for a literal child. If that's not the case, then it's about asking you, what are you willing to make room and space for in your life at this time? Right? You may be at a place in your life where it's a significant period of your growth and development. So that could mean that you're reaching some sort of milestone or some sort of highlight, and I'm being reminded of the person who asked me to make this video, right? So she's at a place where she's reached a major milestone in her life. So for her specifically, and especially, she might be contemplating what it is that she's willing to make room and space for in her life. She's at a place where she gets to, you know, really create or design. And I'm reminded that the number 3 in this card is a number of creativity and creative self-expression, right? So she's at a place where she's able to really take hold of this idea that she's the creator and the architect of her life. And what does she want that life to look like now going forward, right? So there is that. Somebody is actually making room and space for a child, or what is it that you are metaphorically willing to make room and space for in your life? This is a time of creativity in that regard. In another respect, maybe in a more literal aspect of this card can be about, you know, obtaining a certificate or a diploma. So there may be people who are, you know, doing something with their education. So this could be like, I'm entering into a program where I'm seeking a diploma or I'm seeking certification, or that you are being asked to move forward with the education that you have already gotten. Meaning, like, if you already have a diploma in a certain area, or you are already certified to some degree with a particular modality or something of that nature, you're being asked to take that forward. What would you be willing to do with that? Another aspect going with the more education, maybe more career aspect of this card is about building on a reputation that you already have established, right? So that could be going forward. For me, one of the meanings of this card is about self-employment. So if you are feeling the call to move from working for the man, and in a way, the artisan here or the architect is actually working for the man, because there's two people who are holding the blueprint, right? He's designing according to their specifications, right? So that could be working for the man, but that could also be doing freelance work where you are putting your shingle out and you are offering your services to other people. And it is a collaborative effort. They come with what it is they want you to do, the service you provide, and then you go about fulfilling that service, providing that service. So that could be another aspect of this card. The one last thing I will say about this card, if you are looking at your life from a more spiritual lens or spiritual perspective, then this card is talking about working with your guides and your angels, right? So this could be a time if you are wanting to be more productive. Again, that's a 3. In this particular area, you're being asked to establish a relationship with your guides and your angels. And so this way you'll know how they are communicating to you and what they're communicating and how you could take action on those messages that you're receiving. So that's a lot to say about the card, but that is a lot that I want to provide based on the idea that this is a general reading, and so I'm trying to give as many perspectives because it would each perspective will reach a wider amount of people. Okay, so that is the 3 of Pentacles. So now that we've looked at that, the way I'm going to approach the surrounding cards is they're going to maybe offer more information about the central issue. Okay, so starting with the card on the far left, we have the 6 of Wands. Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to say about the 6 of Wands. So the 6 of Wands is a card that talks about success, triumph, and victory because of the man who's on the horse, but he's holding a laurel wreath, which is a symbol for victory and success. So this could be, if we're going about taking a look at our lives, coming up with a plan and implementing the plan, meaning moving it forward, the man being on the horse is a wonderful symbol for about progression, right? It's about moving something along. So there's that. Now the Wands is also a suit for me that can talk about work and creative endeavors. So in a working sense, this is all about doing work that is more meaningful, which would again talk about the work and career aspects that I was talking about with the 3 of Pentacles, right? So here we have, pursuing work or wanting to move into work that is more meaningful in one's life, okay? Another meaning of this card for me is work that we achieve some kind of recognition, like we are being recognized for our efforts. So now that could be in the literal working business sense. So on the job, you are, being acknowledged for what you bring to the environment, what you bring to the culture, right? In a positive sense, like your work is being recognized. It could also be talking about the work and effort that you've been putting into your life, whatever the business is at hand for you, that you are seeing some recognition or you are achieving some recognition for that. This card internally, if we talk about it from a more spiritual lens, this talks about the internal need for recognition. So there may be a need to look at that this week, especially as if you're always seeking external validation, right? So it's about like, what is the need for the external validation? And how can you meet that maybe in a more constructive or positive manner, especially as if you are getting your self-worth wrapped up in what other people are saying about you in terms of praise. Like, do you really need that praise? And if so, why? So, that's a way to do some internal work or some inner inquiry this week. The other thing going along with that idea is that this card, the 6 of Wands, talks about achieving some kind of breakthrough, right? So maybe if there's been some sort of block, maybe if we go back to this card about gradual progress, a gradual development, maybe if the progress has been a little too slow for you, maybe this is the week where things start moving because you achieve some kind of breakthrough, right? And here's the other thing that I'm seeing with both these cards in terms of imagery. Here we have a collaborative process. This card can also be about teamwork because there's 3 people on the card, right? So it could be a situation in which you're needing to move things along, but there may be a gentle reminder that you're not meant to do everything all by yourself, right? And here, in this particular case, with the Six of Wands, there are people who are behind the horseman here. And so I sometimes look at this as people who are cheering this person on moving forward, right? So who could be your support system this week? Who could be the people that would be in your cheering squad or your cheering section, right? And that would be like a matter of like if you decide that you're wanting to design your life, create the life that you want to live, then who would support that, right? It's about being mindful of who you share your dreams, your aspirations, and your goals with, because we don't want to share those things with people who are going to kill it, right? People who are going to tear it down, right? People who are going to be the naysayers. This card is saying, no, no. You want to share with people who are going to praise you, who are going to support you with loving, positive, affirming words. Yeah? Okay. So that is what I see with the Six of Wands. Next card. Here we have, wow, the Seven of Wands. Okay. So with wands being on both sides of this card is about, or I should say the suit of wands is about inspiration, it's about motivation, it's about taking action. So this could be the week where we are being encouraged to take some kind of action. Okay. So with the Seven of Wands in particular, and the first thing that I noticed before I go into the Seven of Wands, we have consecutive numbers here. We move from the 6 to the 7. So that's, again, numerically speaking, it's all about progress, things being in order, things moving in accordance to its natural order. Okay, so now, the meanings of the Seven of Wands that I have. The first thing that comes to me in the moment, this is a card of empowerment. This is a week about standing up for yourself, right? It's also about whatever it is that you want to pursue. It's about staying on top of things. The figure on the card is on top of a hill. So it's about staying on top of things, This is a time where we are being reminded of the details, right? Coming back to the plan, right? The blueprint on the card. It's about remember what the details are, It's about staying on top of things, being detail minded. That's what I want to say, being detail minded, right? That's the other thing. And it's also too, it's about like when it comes to the plan or the life that you want to live, you may come to some resistance, right? Some people may want to come at you. I'm looking at all the wands coming at the figure, right? People may want to come at you, and this is the time where you need to either stand up for yourself, defend your position, those kinds of things. Again, this is all about empowerment. And now, the only other thing I will say is that this is another card for me that talks about self-employment. So I've gotten that twice with 2 cards on the table. So for some people, this really is about stepping out and doing your own thing. But it may be that you're not in a position to do it right now. You may need to come up with a plan. So this could literally be a business plan, or the plan for what it is that you want to do for your business in terms of maybe what it is you want to do, who do you want to serve, those kinds of things. How do you want to serve them? All of that kind of thing. Specifically, going along with that, this card for me can be a student. So we have that educational component. So there may be something about needing to learn something. And sometimes I see this as being on a learning curve because the person's on a hill, right? So it could be like, what do you need to learn? Maybe in a sense of formal education, but also to pay attention to what life is teaching you, right? I always say that life is our greatest and best teacher. And it's always giving us an opportunity to learn if we choose to be observant and aware, right? So there is that. What is life teaching you? The other thing about this card is that it can be the teacher card. So it could be somebody is wanting to do teaching work of some kind. This card, it can be about tutoring and mentoring, those kinds of things. And then the last thing I will say about this card, going along with the teaching and the student aspect, this card is also about writing, right? And so it's interesting about the plan. The plan could be something that's being drafted. So it could be like... I'm thinking of more like an architectural plan where it's actually a drawing, but it could be a written plan, right? And so here we have that with the writer. So if somebody wants to move forward with writing and understanding the power of their words, then you may be inclined or encouraged this week to work on your writing project. And then this card would be about being mindful of staying on top of it, meaning like if you're going to give yourself a deadline, or if there's a deadline given to you from an external source, honoring the deadline. What do you need to do to make sure that you do not lose sight of the deadline? Okay, so that's what I'm seeing with the Seven of Wands. But the chief message I'm getting with this card is that if we're wanting to establish or reestablish our lives, we may come to a place where we need to kind of stand up for ourselves. That may be a big lesson somebody needs to learn is about standing up for yourself. Okay. So now let's take a look at the cards on the other side of the Three of Pentacles, starting with this card. And here we have, oh my goodness, you cannot make this stuff up. So here we have the Strength card. I love the fact that it follows this card. The Strength card in that regard, first thing I want to say is that this card is a card about courage. It's about confidence and self-esteem, right? So that would be a natural byproduct of being empowered, right? Or standing in your own power, right? Standing up for yourself. That comes from a place of being brave. First, you got to be brave enough to stand up for yourself. You got to be courageous enough to stand up for yourself, yeah? But it's also about a matter of being confident, being in your confidence, and a self-esteem issue, right? Sometimes when we don't empower ourselves and we don't stand up for ourselves, it's from a lack of self-esteem, right? So strength in this regard is perfect for that, right? Now, strength in another regard, if we're talking about work, meaning work we're doing out in the world, this card is about not just being confident in your skills and your abilities, but also too, like exploring what it is that you are passionate about. Yeah? So, now, going back to the self-esteem issue or concern that I see, coming back to this card where I said standing up for yourself. This card would offer, knowing when you have gotten out of control with that, right? So strength is a card that talks about, understanding when you need to establish more self-control or self-restraint. That's the lion. The lion is a symbol that can represent our inner beast, so to speak, our inner animal nature, that when we have the tendency to want to tear into people or rip people's heads off, those kinds of things. I'm playing on the lion, right? When we want to do that, sometimes we have to curb that tendency, right? And that would be when this aspect, the Seven of Wands, is out of control, right? So this could be a week where we have to kind of know when we need to stand up for ourselves and when we've gotten to the point where we're being overly aggressive, and maybe we're being snarky, we're being catty, we're being aggressive and assertive just for the sake of it, right? And so we need to take a look at that, like when has that gotten out of control? So that's what I want to offer with strength. Again, I'm seeing strength, and actually strength is the most important card out of all the cards in the deck, on the table, I should say right now, because it's a major arcana card, and for me, they carry more weight. So again, this is about knowing when we are standing in our confidence, standing in our power, and when we have gotten out of control with that. And it's about, kind of balancing that out. And, I'm thinking about like walking a fine line with that. So that's what I'm seeing with strength. I'm taking a step back to see what else it is that I want to say about this card. Okay, the only other thing I will say is that maybe if you are in a place where you are kind of designing or maybe even redesigning your life, strength could be talking about in the physical sense that it's about maybe one area that you want to explore or take a look at is diet. I'm going back to the lion on the card, and the lion can suggest our appetite. So there may be about what it is that we are literally putting into our mouths, what it is that we are putting into our systems, our body, and maybe you're getting to a place from a spiritual standpoint where you're now understanding that your body is your temple, and you are being more mindful, more conscious, more aware of what you are putting into it, right? And so this card is about wanting to do things that are more healthy in that regard. It's about cultivating more healthy habits and tendencies. And as I'm saying that, that could be something that we want to do that's just not related to food and diet, right? Where in our lives can we cultivate more healthy habits and tendencies, right? So there's that. And I thought I was done with that. But the one other thing I will say with this card is that if somebody is doing more spiritually minded work, this card sometimes can be about energy healing because the woman's hands are placed on the lion. So this could be like you are practicing Reiki or healing touch or quantum touch or something along those lines. Something that is about channeling energy through your hands, right? So I'm seeing that. And as I'm talking about that, that's a spiritual sense. In maybe the more metaphorical sense, it's about being more mindful about what you are doing with the energy at your disposal, right? How do you actively work with your energy, right? So it could be a matter of like what areas Are you placing your energy in a positive way and maybe in a not so positive way? And would you be willing to take a look at the not so positive ways and seeing what you could do to kind of maybe uh, redesign or come up with maybe more constructive ways, Three of Pentacles, of working energy in those areas or in those regards. So that's what I would offer with the Strength card, right? Again, with Seven of Wands from a place of empowerment, I think this is about coming into your own strength. It's about your strength of character. Okay, so then the last card, rounding this reading out, we have the Four of Pentacles. Okay, so I was going to say this with the Strength card. Now I will say it because of this card. The Four of Pentacles is a card that can talk about, in a more challenging sense, what it is that we are holding on to. This is known as the Miser card. So in some regards, it's going to be about, holding on to money. So in a positive sense, I would offer, how could we be more conservative with our finances, our material resources, not from a selfish place, because I'm not getting that as this thing. And I think it's just being maybe more conservative, maybe being more resourceful with our resources, our finances, right? And it may appear to the outside world because in the background we have the town or the city, right? So that would be where other people live, right? It may be that if people have become accustomed to you just being very generous and very giving, you may be in a space where you are rethinking that because you're realizing that you're enabling people and it's at a disservice to yourself as well. And so maybe you're thinking about, how could I do that differently? The four is a number of formation, right? So we're forming a new pattern, forming something that's going to be a new way of living going forward. And people may deem that or look at that as being selfish, right? And so it could be just be a matter of you taking that negative energy that's coming at you, Seven of Wands, and reframing that, right? And so it may be a matter of, I'm not being selfish, I'm being more conservative, right? And you're just being aware that maybe you're in a space where your resources are finite and you have to be very mindful of where you are putting those resources. And resources could not just be money. It's about where you're putting your time and where you're putting your energy, right? And so that could be the first thing. How do we need to restructure that placement of time, energy, resources? So that's the first thing. Okay, so now, aside from that, when I see this card, sometimes it's about what we are holding on to, energetically speaking, right? So what I was going to say with the Strength card before, and I didn't say it, is that sometimes the Strength card can suggest, where do we need to apply forgiveness in our lives? So sometimes forgiveness is about reaching out to other people about the things that have been done, right? But sometimes, and more often than not, I will say, is that the forgiveness is something that we need to give to ourselves, right? It's a gift that we give to ourselves. So where do you maybe need to forgive yourself? And maybe it's about where you are in life. Maybe you thought at this stage in your life you would be further along than maybe where you are. And maybe you're beating yourself up about that. And so maybe you just need to forgive yourself for believing that where you are now is not where you need to be, because apparently you're thinking you need to be somewhere else. So maybe just work on, if you're open to that suggestion, work on the idea of being willing to forgive yourself for believing that where you are is not where you are meant to be, right? Because this card can, again, be talking about holding on. So are we holding on to a grudge? Are we holding on to bitterness? Are we holding on to some kind of resentment? And if that is true, if that resonates with you, what would you be willing to do to release that? Because the only person who's really being hurt by that is you. It may not be the other person that you are hoping and intending is going to be affected by that. You may be the one who's more affected by that. And so what would you be willing to do to free yourself up from that, right? The other thing about this card, going with the visual imagery, is that the man is so far removed from the city. So that could be the challenging thing, right? When we are holding on to bitterness, resentment, we're holding on to a grudge for whatever reason. We may feel like we are justified for that. But for whatever the reason, all it does is create distance between ourselves and other people, right? And it could be in a more positive sense. If we need to stand up for ourselves, it could be that we need to create space between ourselves and other people. I don't want to gloss over the challenging aspect of this card with the people coming at them, at this figure, right? if people have been coming at you again and again and again, the message here could be, beloved, that you need to give yourself the space. You need to create the distance between you and those people. And would you be willing to form that space? Would you be willing to do that, right? Now, another thing I noticed, we had the 6 and the 7 of Wands here. Here we have the 3 and the 4 of Pentacles with the Strength card in between, right? It may be a matter of like, if you need to move from here to there, the biggest thing you need to have is the strength and the courage to do it. You need to be brave, right? And you need to forgive yourself and other people as you allow that space to develop. Whew. I just want to say, as I wrap up this reading, that I want to thank the person who made the request, because I love how this reading unfolded. So I'm going to end things there. This has been the Oracle Outlook with James and Mitchell, and I want to thank you for sharing this space with me, and I look forward to sharing this space with you again in a future reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you are having a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you're going to have a wonderful week going forward. Take care.